my channel, or welcome back if you've been here before. My name is Charmaine, and today we are doing the book club review for The Last House Guest by Megan Miranda. How are you guys doing today? So I'm pretty excited to be talking about this book. I originally was going to film this video on a day when I was not feeling very good, and it would not have been a good video, so I was like, I'm gonna save that. So I'm filming it now, and I'm super, super excited to be chatting with you guys because I love this book. I am like obsessed with Megan Miranda. I think now, actually, I have read every single one of her books except for I'm halfway through The Girl from Widow Hills, or The Woman from Widow Hills. So yeah, then I'm gonna have a video where I talk about all of her books because that's amazing. Taylor gave me the idea actually, so thank you, Taylor. I appreciate that. So we have 8 questions on this one. I'm gonna read you the back first, and then we'll get into the story just in case you guys missed it, okay? So it says, "Don't overstay your welcome. Littleport, Maine has always felt like 2 separate towns. An ideal vacation enclave for the wealthy, whose summer homes line the coast. A simple harbor community for the year-round residents whose livelihoods rely on the service to visitors. Typically, fierce friendships never develop between a local and a summer girl, but that's exactly what happens when Sadie Lohman and Littleport resident Avery Greer. The girls are inseparable until Sadie is found dead. While the police rule the death an unaliving, Avery can't help but feel that there are those in the community, including members of Sadie's family, who blame her. Someone knows more than they're saying, and Avery is intent on clearing her name before the facts get twisted against her." So this was such a good book. Did you guys read it? I'm so excited. I honestly love this book. Like, again, I can't say enough good things about Megan Miranda. So let's get into it because I just want to talk about it, and let's get there. So the first question is, an important aspect of the book is life in a small town. Avery lives in a place where everyone knows her past, her family history, her personal struggles, her romantic life, and so on. Do you have any experience living in a small town like this? So my answer is, I've always lived in a city. I wrote everything down. I've always lived in a city. My cousin lives in a farm though, and I'd go and visit. And I remember going to like a bush party with my cousins when we were like, I don't know, 16 or something like that. And somebody, like one of her friends, asked me where I was from, and I was like, oh, I'm from like the city, blah. And then I was like, you know, like, and then I said the city that I was from, and they're like, oh, fancy city girl. Oh, you think you're fancy? And I was like, you just like asked me where I was from. I'm just telling you where I was from. Like, I wasn't like, oh, I'm fancy because I'm from the city and you're from the car. Like, I'm not like that, weirdo. I wasn't like that then either. And then they wouldn't talk to me for the rest of the time. So I ended up being at the party by myself with my cousin who was like trying to make out with some dude. So not a fun time. I don't talk to her anymore. Bitter! I don't edit. I'm leaving that in there. There you go. Another time I went for a coffee at a restaurant in the same town that I was visiting, and everybody was staring at me and talking about me, and I also felt that to be really weird. But it was like a restaurant where like either families from like the town would go and eat, or else like the teenagers in the town would go and sit and like have coffee together and like visit, because that's like what you did when you were 16. We all went out for coffee and we drank way too much coffee with way too much sugar, and it was gross. But yeah, so they were all sitting there like staring at me and like talking about me, and I was just like, this is really awkward. Like, we don't do this in the city. Yeah, that's right. I'm 45 this year, you guys. I was 16 and I'm still mad about it. Anyways. Yeah. So number 2 is, not only is Littleport a small town, but it's also a popular summer tourist destination. This causes tension between the year-round locals and the typically wealthy summer visitors. Due to her relationship with the Lohmans, Avery finds herself caught in between these two worlds. How does being in this position affect her? And it says, it seems like she's not really a part of either world. And then after the death of her family, the town almost treats her kind of like suspiciously, or like they treat her like she's going to, I don't know, like implode almost or something. And I mean, like, she did, like, after her family passed away, she did like make a lot of bad choices, but that kind of makes sense because like both of her parents died. So, you know, when that happened, she kind of like, she became like a bad kid. So then she was like the town, like pariah kind of thing. Cause, you know, she like did like bad stuff. And then the town judges her on that, and they don't really trust her or think very well of her when she starts working for the Lohmans either. Like, they don't seem to realize that, yes, she's gonna need a job. She's gonna have to do stuff for that job. the Lomans bought her like grandparents' house. So she like wants to stay with like her grandma's house because that's where she grew up. So really working for the Lomans is just like letting her have access to her grandma's house kind of thing. So I could see why she like wants to work for them, because like, A, she needs to make money. And I mean, it's a seasonal town, so she needs a job where she can like make a lot of money during the season where it's busy and then not need to make money in like the winter because people aren't there in the winter kind of thing. Or she wouldn't like have as much business in the winter, I think. So that's kind of my thought there. It's kind of sucky for her on both sides because like the town doesn't really accept her and like the Lomans don't really accept her. So she's kind of like in the middle of these two people who, and like neither one of them really trust her. Number 3 is a topic that's often addressed in the book is who to trust, or rather who not to trust. Avery questions whether or not she can still trust her old friends from town. Luce refers to the Lomans as liars, and who is telling the truth constantly is in question. How does this book call trustworthiness into question? Do you think Avery had anyone that she could really trust? I said no. I don't think that she does. Maybe Connor, because I do think that he was on like her side for the most part, but I also think that because like there was a falling out kind of between them where they didn't really talk, like I think that he would still defend her, but I think that because they had that like falling out, she didn't really talk to him. Like she didn't have a chance to like actually like have him as a friend or have him like when she needed him or anything like that. And then when Sadie passed away, she was literally by herself. Like, which is so crappy. Like, that's so sad. She, like, talks about how she goes into the restaurant and, like, people, like, don't even talk to her. They don't look at her. Like, people are like, oh, gross, you know, kind of thing for her. So it's kind of crappy. And then I said that Sadie figured out that Parker had something to do with Avery's parents' accident, and Officer Ben Collins seems trustworthy. Yeah, that's the face. But he's been covering up something for the Lomans for years. I'm assuming that you read the book at this point. If you didn't, by the way, there's spoilers. This is my spoilers hand. It's much like the more you know hand. I make myself laugh. Number 4 is the nature of Avery's and Sadie's relationship is often brought up in the book. At first, it seems they were simply close friends, but as the story progresses, questions arise. I need a sip of water. Hang on one sec, you guys. Then it says, Avery even tells us, I believe that a person becomes possessed by someone else, at least in part. That one life can slip inside another, giving it its shape, and in a way I could judge Sadie's reactions before it occurred, picturing an expression a second before she shared it. So the question part is actually, what do you think of their relationship? Was the friendship one-sided? Did they really meet by chance, or did Sadie seek out Avery? So I said, definitely Sadie looked for Avery. I think she thought that Avery was like a long-lost sister to her because she brings Avery to supper with the Lomans, and she like kind of like looks at her dad, trying to figure out if like her dad is like Avery's dad, or if like her dad is like shook by the fact that Avery's there. But all of her family kind of is, because they're covering up the fact that Parker killed her parents. Again, the more you know, spoilers. So yeah. So they're covering that up. So like everybody is like, oh, why is she here? What have you done? What's going on here? We should not be near her because she'll figure it out, kind of thing. So she did do that. And I do think saying that it's one-sided is kind of hard to say, because you're always like, you're only hearing Avery's side of the story. Like Sadie's passed away. The book is told from Avery's side of view. So yeah, it sounds like one-sided because it's Avery's side. Like, there's always, like, a second side to the story, you know what I mean? Like, maybe it's not a second side that you want to hear, maybe it's not something that you believe, but there always is, like, 2 sides to every story. So, we don't get, like, the second side because Sadie's not there to tell her side, which kind of makes it does make the friendship seem more one-sided. It seems like, I mean, like, the one guy says that Avery is Sadie's little monster, or Sadie's little pet, or something like that. So, Sadie's monster. I think it's Sadie's monster. Where they're talking about, like, essentially Sadie took Avery and they hung out so much and she just kind of, like, twisted Avery into being, like, a mini copycat of Sadie kind of thing. And then Sadie wasn't, like, a very nice person. I mean, not really. She wasn't, like, super great. The relationship was very codependent. I'm, like, actually answering, but I'm also having, like, my notes here just in case. And then Avery also should have told Sadie about Connor, because the reason why they had the falling out was because Sadie kind of went for Connor. But, like, Avery didn't know that, like, nothing happened. but then Sadie kind of made it look like something had happened, or kind of like said that something had happened, and like Avery should have just been like said to Connor like, what is going on between you guys? And then if she had done that, then they wouldn't have been apart so long, and it would have been like better, because I think probably she would have like dated Connor for like, you know, ever. Number 5 is, what do you think about Avery? Do you think she was opportunistic or naive? And what do you think about Sadie? I think that Avery was smarter and more clever than the people around her thought. When the Lomans bought her grandma's house, in the deal, she did say that like she had to get the one part in writing, and that was like they would always give her a place to live, because she wanted that in writing, and everything else she was like okay with. And Mr. Loman even said, yeah, that's smart. That's a good thinker there, kind of thing. And she figured out about because she worked for the Lomans, and Sadie also worked for the Lomans. They worked at the same place. But Avery figured out that money was going missing, and then she figured out that it was Sadie, and she actually told the Lomans. Like, she was like, I'm sorry, like, I'm gonna tell them, because, you know, you can't be stealing, which I totally get. Like, if my friend was working with me and they were stealing, I would not let them steal, because it drives me insane. Like, don't steal. Just don't steal. Just get a job. Just don't steal. How about that? And then I said, I think Sadie was very unhappy with her family and felt trapped. Like, I think, honestly, with her stealing was her way of trying to get away from them. Like, because, like, they met when they were younger, and then this is, like, when they're in their 20s, and she's still working for the dad, she's still with the family company, and, like, she just wants to go and do her own thing, but she can't because she's a Loman. So she has to do, like, what they want to do. She has to be the kind of person that they want her to be. So I think that Sadie just felt trapped, and that's why she stole the money. Because she was like, well, if I steal this money, then they'll, like, kick me out of the company, and then I can just go and do my own thing, and then they can just be my family, but I don't have to be working for them. I don't have to rely on them for my money. I can go and do my own thing, and it'll be better. I think that's what happened. Number 6 is, a big part of the story is secrets. How would the story have been different if there wasn't so many secrets kept? What motivated those into keeping their secrets? And what sacrifices were made in order to keep these secrets? One is Parker would have gone to jail. Sadie and Avery never would have become, like, maybe never would have met, or else they would have met, like, maybe at the trial kind of thing. But they probably wouldn't have been friends. Ben Collins wouldn't have been a dirty cop, and Sadie would still be alive. Yeah. Ben Collins. Number 2 is Ben got money, Parker's parents covered it up with money, and Sadie was stealing money. So that was like what motivated the secrets, was a lot of money. It was actually all money. It was all money. Like, Parker, they didn't want Parker to go to jail, but Ben was covering that up because he got money from them. Sadie was stealing money. Like, it was all about the money. And then 3, which was what sacrifices were made in order to keep these secrets. Sadie's death, almost Avery's death, and Ben's death. Which, like, Ben wouldn't have become a dirty cop, and then he wouldn't have tried to kill Avery, and then he wouldn't have died if he had just, like, not been a dirty cop with the money again. It's, like, a lot of based around money. This is just coming to me right now. But it's definitely, like, a lot, like, a based around money, because, like, Avery ends up making a lot of money because she does, like, she invests in a lot of stuff, so she ends up making a lot of money and stuff like that. So, I don't know. The story is a lot about money. Number 7 is, were you surprised by the ending, or did you figure out what was happening early in the book? And what parts really stood out to you? This is one where I didn't write anything down. So I was 100% surprised. I'm sure that you guys are shocked by this, and shocked by this, I mean, you're not at all. You guys know I never guess what's happening. Like, the one time I guess what's happening, and like in that movie where Kaiser Soze's happened, I guessed that. Like, for like the first time ever. Like, in 5 seconds in, I was like, oh, he's the bad guy. And then my boyfriend was like, no, you've seen this before. And I was like, no, seriously, this is like the first time I've ever figured it out. Please give me the credit, because I actually figured it out. Yeah. But you guys know, until like it actually happens, I have no clue what's going on. Like, I was guessing, I was like, okay, so Parker did it, definitely. And then I was like, oh, the dad did it. And then I was like, Luce did it. And like, who was the other one? Oh my gosh, the other girl's name. Not Luce. Oh, I'm going to see if I can find it here. See if I can find her name. See if I can find it. She's right at the end. Because, like, they're together now. Oh, I'm so sorry, you guys. I should have written it down. Avery, right? No. No, Avery's the main girl. I don't know. She meets another girl who's, like, messing with like the cabins that Lomans own, and then she ends up like starting a business with her. And like I feel like the whole entire thing, like that part, I was like, oh, she's the bad person. But the whole entire thing, I had no idea. I totally thought that like maybe Sadie wasn't dead and she was coming back and like haunting the cabins, or like I had no clue that Ben was the bad guy. She finds Sadie's phone, she gives him the phone, and he's like, oh yeah, I'll turn this in. He doesn't turn it in, obviously, because he's the bad guy. Like, I mean, it's just, there was so many twists and turns in there. It was so good. It was so good. Like, five stars. There was so many twists and turns in there that I was like, I don't know what's happening. And I, like, reread some parts because I was like, oh, I gotta re-get this part. And then I was like, how did I not notice this happening? So I reread a couple of chapters just to see. So good. So good. So good. Highly recommend if you didn't read it. It was amazing. So now, for question 8, we always do, like, who we would cast in the roles. And I think... No, I don't think this one's becoming a movie, but I do think one of Megan's books is becoming, like, a movie or a TV show. So that's kind of neat. So for Avery, I had Emily Van Camp. She was on, like, some show in the 90s. I can't think of what the show was called. I'll put their pictures, like, here so you guys can see them. But I just figured, like, for Avery, that's kind of who I picture in my mind. Like, she just seems like she would be, like, a smart person and kind of, like, determined and tough. And that's what, like, Emily kind of reminds me of. Like, not tough like she'd, like, box you, but, like, tough, like, mentally. That's what Emily reminds me of. For Sadie, I picked Shay Mitchell. She was in Pretty Little Liars. I see Sadie as being kind of devious, and I see Shay Mitchell as being kind of devious. So I think maybe that's because of Pretty Little Liars, which I didn't really watch a whole lot. But I'm pretty sure that I have that thought of her being, like, I don't know, devious because of that show, even though I didn't really watch it. For Parker, who's, like, the rich, kind of suave, kind of, like, debonair guy, I picked Ed Westwick. He's from Gossip Girl. He played, like, a rich, kind of debonair, kind of charismatic guy in that show. And I also did not watch that show a lot, but that's who I thought of. Then for Connor, I picked Steve Amell. He is in Arrow. Like, he played the main guy in Arrow. He seems like a really down-to-earth guy who would be, like, a hard worker, and who would be, like, he would totally love being, like, a boat captain, like, tour boat captain kind of thing, and I thought that would be cool. For Luce, I picked Diana Aragon, I think her name is. She's from Glee, the blonde girl, Quinn. She played Quinn on Glee. Then for Ben Collins, I picked Darren Criss, also from Glee. I think that he would be the perfect bad guy cop. Like, his face just says bad guy to me, even though I've never seen him play a bad guy. But I feel as though, but like, he would play the bad guy where you would think he was a good guy, but he would turn out to be a bad guy. That's the face that he has. And then for Faith, I picked Faith, that's the girl who was messing with the cabins. So for Faith, I picked Kristen Ritter. She was on, like, one of the Marvel TV shows. I can't think of what it was called, though. But she has, like, really dark black hair, and she has, like, a really, like, tiny little feature face. I don't know. I just feel as though she would play somebody who was slightly twisted. That's a good way to describe Faith, I think. And then for Mr. and Mrs. Loman, I picked Chris Noth and Renee Russo. I both just think that they would be good parents. Chris Noth is, like, Mr. Big from Sex and the City, and then Renee Russo is... I don't know. She just seems like she would be, like, a good, rich, snobby kind of mom wife. I don't know. I don't know how else to put it. But I feel as though that she would play that role good. And yeah. Let me know what you guys think about this book. I cannot wait to hear what Taylor says. Also, my mom read this book as well, so I can't wait to see what my mom thinks either. I really, really, really cannot wait to see who Taylor cast in the roles. Honestly, that's, like, my favorite question. We could just have, like, book club where we were just like, what do you guys think of this person? Because honestly, I feel as though every book that I really enjoy should be made into a TV show so I can watch it and then reread the book. That would be so cool. Like, instead of remaking movies like Point Break, because Point Break original, Keanu Reeves, the other guy, amazing. Point Break, the remake, could have been called literally any other movie. Literally any other movie. Was not good. Like, stop remaking the stuff and start making, like, cool book movies. That's what they should do. If I ran Hollywood, this whole place would be different. I don't know. That's where we are. Okay. Okay, so let me know what you guys think about the books. Let me know who you would, like, cast in the roles. Like, just pick one and tell me who that's who you thought of in the role. Because I just want to know. I just want to know. The casting part, again, is like one of my favorite questions. I just can't, like, I can't help that. Okay, that's it. Please like this video and subscribe if you haven't already, and turn on the notification bell so that you're notified every time I post a new video. And check out my description box for other content creators as well. And thank you guys so much for spending a couple minutes of your day with me today. I really, really appreciate that, and I really, really appreciate you. And I'll see you in my next video. Bye!